So I had this event I needed to attend, and I just needed to put on something nice and look quite different. So I came up with this beautiful fashion illustration piece that is up there. And sometime within this month, I came across an advanced form of contouring your pattern on the streets of Facebook and YouTube. And this method of contouring helps to snatch or cinch the waist while you're using a zip, and also it helps to contour the bum or butt and helps with a perfect knee contouring. So I thought to try out this method, which is referred to as the bust subtraction method. So I'll be using this method to draft out this outfit and see if it is something I would love to adopt or not. And hustle to all returning subscribers, you are highly welcome back again, and I am sending so much love from this side. If you're seeing this channel for the very first time, you are highly welcome. Please do well to hit the subscribe button and also click on the notification bell to be notified whenever I drop a new video. And if this is something you would love to watch, if there's something you're interested in, do well and keep watching, and do not touch that dial. Now, when using this method, there are 3 important measurements that needs to be taken and added to the list of measurements, which are the bust arc, hip arc, and the knee circumference. For the bust arc, simply take the measurements of the bust from one side to the other side of the bust as demonstrated in this video. 2. For the hip arc, take the measurement of the bum or butt from one side to the other side like this, as you can see, and make sure your tape is always at the fullest part of the bum and bust. The third one is the knee circumference. For that, you have to measure around your knee. You can determine how tight or loose you want the knee circumference to be. So that is it. And these are the list of the measurements that we're taking to draft out this pattern. So right now, go right ahead and draft out the front pattern first. So I'm going to draft out the full basic bodice of a gown. So I'll go right ahead and divide my shoulder measurement by 2, which gives me 7, which I have marked out, and then I'll come down by 1 inch like so. So I'm going to slant this upward to get my shoulder slope or slants like this. And then for the neck width, I am working with 3.5 inches, that is 3.5 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark that out here, and I am going to reconnect this 1 inch for the shoulder slants back to the neck width I just marked out. So next, I'm going to come down by 3 inches for the neck depth. So for this, I'm just drafting out a normal regular basic bodice for the gown. So I'm going to connect this neck depth to the neck width like so. After doing this, the next step is to mark out the armhole depth. Now, to get your armhole depth, divide your round bust measurement by 6 plus 1.5. So for me, I have 8 inches for my armhole depth. So I'll go ahead and connect the shoulder slope or slants to the 8 inches using my curve rule like this to get a straight line. Now that this is done, the next thing is to go ahead and mark out your bust point, which is from your shoulder to your nipple. So for me, I have 10.75, which I am marking out right now. And I'll go ahead and bring in my rule and connect the dots to get a straight line like so. And this line represents to the bust point. Moving on, the next thing is to go ahead and mark out your under bust line, which is from the shoulder to underneath your bust. So for me, I have 14.75, which I am marking out like so. And I'll go ahead and bring in my rule to connect the dots to get a straight line like so. Now that this is done, this line represents to the under bust line. Moving on, I'll go ahead and mark out my front waist. So the front waist is from the shoulder to the natural waist at your front. Always note that your front waist is quite or a bit longer than your back waist. So you go ahead and measure it out and mark it out. So I'm marking out my front waist, and I'll go ahead and bring in my rule to connect the dots to get a straight line. Now this line represents to the waistline. Next is to get the hip line, and to get the hip line, mark 9 inches from the waistline. gives you the hip line. So I'll go ahead and mark out 9 inches from this waistline to get the hip line. And I'll bring in my rule to connect the dots to get a straight line like this. And this line represents to the hip line. Now that this is done, the next thing is to mark out from the waist to your lean net. So at this point, my pattern paper was not enough, so I had to go hard to it. Now you can see I've made the pattern paper longer, so I'll go ahead and mark out the waist to the knee length. Now from my waist to my knee is 24 inches, so I'll go ahead and mark it out 24 inches. So I'll mark it out like so, and I'll bring in my rule to connect the dots to get a straight line like this. Now this line represents to the knee line. So I want this gown to be longer than the knee level, so I'm just going to add 5 more inches. So from my waist to the length I want the gown to be is 29 inches, or you can just go ahead and add how long you want the measurement to be from your knee. You can take the measurement from your knee. I hope you understand. So this is the length I want this gown to be. So this is the gown length line, and I'm going to add 1 inch for hemming allowance. Yeah, so I'm adding 1 inch for hemming allowance like this, and I'll bring in my rule, connect the dots to get a straight line, and this line is my allowance line. Now that this is done, we are almost done with the front pattern. The next thing is to start marking out our round measurement. Now remember I took the bust arc measurement, and I'll be making use of it now. So since the bust is protruding at the front and this is the front pattern, all I have to do is to divide the bust arc measurement by 2. So I'll go ahead and divide my bust arc measurement, which is 21, divided by 2 gives me 10.5, and I'll go ahead and mark it out here like this. Next is to find the midpoint of my armhole depth. So remember my armhole depth is 8 inches, so the midpoint is 4. Next I'll go in by half an inch, and I am going to connect this to this to this to get the armhole curve. So you can see me connecting it like this to get the armhole curve. After doing that, I'll go ahead and extend this line like this to get the chest line, and this line represents the chest line. Now that this is done, the next thing is to go over to the under bust line. So go ahead and divide your round under bust measurement by 4, the normal way you do it. So and mark it out. Then on your waist line, also divide your round waist measurements by 4 and mark it out, the normal way you do it as well. Now on the hip line, come down by 1.5 inch like this. So you go ahead and come down by 1.5 inch on your hip line or from your hip line, and then I'll bring in my rule and just connect the dots to get a straight line. Now for the hip, and since the hip arc is being used, and obviously there is no protrusion going on at the front hip, all you have to do is to minus the hip arc from the hip circumference and divide whatever you get by 2. For example, my hip circumference is 41 and my hip arc is 22. So 41 minus 22 gives me 19 inches. So 19 divided by 2 gives me 9.5, and I'll go ahead and mark that out here. Now at the knee length, you mark out the same thing on your knee line and on the gown length and also on the allowance line. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring in my rule and connect all this together like this. So you go ahead and connect. You connect the lines or the dots, whichever, but definitely you do understand where I'm going at. So here you just go ahead and curve here, then you continue using the straight line to connect like this. So obviously whatever you have on your hip line is what you're going to mark on your knee line, on your gown length or line, and also on your allowance line. I hope you do understand. So that's just it. So at this point, you come in and mark out your bust span measurement after dividing it by 2. So for me, I have 4, and I'm marking that out from my center front. Then you go up by 2 inches from your hip line like this. So I just want to be certain I have 4 here. And then you bring in your rule to connect the dots to get a straight line. So this is just me drawing out the dot line. It's just drawing out a regular dot line. So now that this is done, I'll just go ahead and extend this line like this. And you go ahead and mark out your side dart, which is the difference between the front waist and the back waist measurement. So you go ahead and mark it out like this. And then you connect this to the bust point using your rule, like so. So I'll just bring in my other marker pen so that this line will be more obvious, because I think the other one is finished. So this is it, guys. So at this point we are almost done. So the next thing is to mark out 3/8, which is also 0.375. So you go ahead and mark it out on the chest line and from the hip line as well. So if you don't know how to read your tape, I've done a video where I explained extensively how you can read your tape, so it's very easy for you to understand. So you go ahead and watch it, and then you come back and join us. So you go ahead and mark out 0.375 from your chest line and from your hip line, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring in my rule to connect these lines or dots to get a straight line like this. Now this line that is being drawn is very important for the contouring process. Yes, so after doing this, I'll just go ahead and extend my chest line, extend the dot lines as well, like this. Now that I've extended this, all I have to do now is to indicate my front pattern on this, and I'll go ahead and cut this out like so. And the reason for cutting it out like this is so that I can go ahead and draft out the back pattern. For this particular method, which is the bust subtraction method that we're using for this drafting, the front and the back pattern needs to be ready before you can proceed with any form of contouring. So the reason for doing this, so I'll just go ahead and cut this out, and then I'm going to keep this or set this aside. So I'll go ahead and bring in the piece that I'll be using to draft out the back pattern. So I'll be using this to draft out my back pattern. I'll go ahead and divide my shoulder measurements by 2 and then mark it out, which is 7 inches. Then I'll come down by 1 inch like this. And for the neck width, I'm making use of 3 inches. Then I'll connect the 1 inch upward like this to the neck width to get the shoulder slant or slope. Next, my armhole depth is 8 inches. I've marked it out, and I'll go ahead and bring in my rule to connect like this. After doing this, the next step is I'm going to go ahead and mark 1 inch for my neckline depth, and I'll go ahead and connect this to the neck width like so. Next is to mark out my back waist, which is from the shoulder to the natural waist at the back. So for me, I have gone ahead to mark it out, and then I'll bring in my rule and connect like this, and this line represents the waistline for the back. Now next is to mark out the hip line, which is 9 inches from the waistline, gives you the hip line, and I've gone ahead to mark out 9 inches from my back waistline to get the hip line, and I'm connecting like this. So this is the hip line. Moving on, I'll bring in my tape and measure from my waistline to my knee line, which is 24 inches, and I'll go ahead and mark it out like this. And I'll bring in my rule to connect these dots to get a straight line like so. And this is the knee line for me. Now I'll go ahead and mark out the length for the gown. So you remember I'm working with 29 inches. So invariably that's just like adding 5 inches to the knee line to get my gown length as well. So they're the same thing. Measuring from your waistline to your gown length, or from your knee to your desired gown length, is the same thing. Then I'll add 1 inch for hemming allowance as well, and I'll bring in my rule to connect the dots like this. And this line represents as the allowance line or the hemming line. And I'll also come down by 1.5 inches from the hip line like this. And I'll get my rule and connect the dots to get a straight line. Now that this is done, the next step is to go about marking out the round bodice measurements. Now, since there is no protrusion going on at this area of the back, all you have to do is to subtract the bust arc from the bust circumference, and whatever you get, you divide it by 2 and you mark it out. So my bust circumference is 39 minus 21, which is my bust arc, gives me 18 inches. Now 18 divided by 2 gives me 9 inches, and that is what I've gone ahead to mark out. And I'll go ahead and find the midpoint of my armhole depth like so and mark it out as well. So I'll just go ahead and draw a curve connecting these to this point like this. So this is the armhole curve for my back pattern. I'll go ahead and extend this line to get the chest line, and this line represents the chest line. Then on the waistline, go ahead and divide your round waist measurement by 4 and mark it out. Then on the hip line, obviously there's a protrusion going on at the back. That is where the butt is, protruding. So all you have to do is to divide your butt arc by 2. So my butt arc is 22 divided by 2 gives me 11, which I've gone ahead to mark out here. So this same 11 inches, I'll go ahead and mark it out on the knee line, and I'll also go ahead and mark it out on the gown length and also on the Amy line as well. I hope you understand. So whatever you marked out on your hip line is what you also mark out on your knee line and on your gown line and also on your Amy line. Now I am just connecting the markings to get my curve. I'll go ahead and extend this line like this, and I'll bring in my rule and just curve it down like this. And I'll continue with the process like this, straightening out the lines to connect like so. Moving on, I'll go ahead and draw out my dart line by dividing my bust span measurement by 2, which is my nipple to nipple measurement by 2. So for me, I have 4 and I'm marking that out. So I'll go up by 2 inches from the hip line like this and ensure my bust span measurement is still maintained here. And I'll bring in my rule and connect the dot to get a straight line like this. So my dart line is ready. Now that this is done, the next thing I would want to do is to come out on my chest line and on the hip line by 0.375 inch or 3/8. So the link to the video on how you can read your tape, I'll drop it on the description box so you can go ahead and watch it. So I'll go ahead and mark 0.375 from the chest line and from the hip line as well, like this. And then I'll bring in my rule to connect this to get a straight line like so. So this method is quite easy. It might look kind of tricky and a bit bulky and difficult, but over time, once you start drafting it, you'd see that it's an easy process. So we'll go right into the contouring process by bringing the front and the back patterns together. Now that we have them together, we are going to do calculations proper. So make sure you indicate your front pattern and your back pattern. Now the first step in contouring is to extend your waistline to meet this line like this. So you go ahead and extend the waistlines of both the front pattern and the back pattern to meet up with the straight line, and you also extend your hip line and your chest line to meet up with this line. Now please pay close attention. So on this piece of paper is where I'll be doing my calculation. So I'll go ahead and bring in my tape, and I am going to measure what I have between this curve line here and the straight line, and I'll also do the same thing for the back pattern. I am going to add them together. I hope you understand. So I'm just going to measure like this. What I have from this curve line to the straight line is 2.75, and I'll go ahead and write it 2.375 plus I will go to my back pattern, and I will also measure what I have between the curve line and the straight line, as you can see. So here I have 2.125. So I'll go ahead and add them together, and I have 4.5 inches. So whatever I get, I'll go ahead and divide it by 6. So whatever you get, you divide it by 6. So you go ahead and, add them together, whatever you get between this space and this other space, and you add them together, and whatever you get, you divide it by 6. So after dividing by 6, I have 0.75. So meaning I'll be snatching my waist with 0.75 inches. So at this side, I'll come ahead and mark 0.75 inches like so. Please just watch closely the way I'm doing it. Then I'm going to bring in my rule and connect downward like this. So you can go ahead and just, use a dotted line, or you can use a straight line like me, whichever you can be able to understand and not get confused. Now I'm going to do the same thing here. So please take note that all of this that is being done is carried out on the waist, because we are trying to snatch the waist. And I'll go ahead and connect upward like this as well on the back pattern. Now I'll still go ahead with this 0.75 inches that I got here. I'll go ahead and mark it out on both sides of the dart line like so on the waistline. So 0.75 inches on both sides. So whatever you get after doing your own calculation is what you'll be using to snatch your waist. So you go ahead and put whatever you get on the side and connect the way I did, and also you use it for your darts intake. So I hope that is understood. So I'll just go ahead and connect like so. So please just watch, because most times it's best you learn from seeing it than the words I am spitting out. I don't know if you understand. So you just go ahead and connect, and you do the same thing on your back pattern. So you can see that it is the same thing that was done on the front pattern that is being done on the back pattern. So you can see it's just easy step. It's just for you to calm down and learn and practice it, and you see that it's very, very easy. So I'll just go ahead and connect like so. Now that this is done, the next thing I would want to do is to fold in my side dart like this. So this is just to ensure that this line is straight. If it is not, I'll go ahead and correct it using my rule and my tracing wheel. So it's not straight, so just go ahead and straighten the line like this. And then since I don't have my tracing wheel with me here, I'll just go ahead and use a pen that is no longer writing to trace it out like this. So you just go ahead and trace it out. So at this point, there's the marking. So I'll go ahead and bring in my rule and connect it like this. So now that this is done, I'm going to connect this back to this curve here. So at this point, the side dart is balanced and ready. So now that this is done, we are done with the upper part of contouring. We are now going to the lower part of contouring this pattern. So for this, all you have to do is to go ahead and mark out 1 inch on your knee line or your gown line, whichever, at the center back, from the center back. So I'll just go ahead and mark 1 inch, going by 1 inch on my knee line, and I'll bring in my rule to connect like this and draw out a nice curve to this hip line here. So at this point, be careful so you don't have a deep curve going inward. So just be careful. If you have the longest curve rule, go ahead and use that. I think that is okay as well. It's very, very okay. So I'm just trying to be on the safer side of not going deeper while trying to get a nice curve at my center back. So just go ahead and connect like this. Now, before I forget, to avoid, budging at the back once you fix your zipper, all you have to do is to come in by ½ an inch on your waistline from the center back, like so, and, connect like this to the hip line. Just draw like this to the hip line and slant it upward like this towards the chest line. At this point, your pattern is ready if you do not want any knee contouring. But for this, I'll be doing a little bit of knee contouring. So all I'm going to do right now is I'm going to, bring in this piece of paper, because this is what I'll be using for doing my calculations. Yeah. So remember the knee circumference measurement that I took, which was 30 inches. So I'll add 6 inches to it. So add 6 inches to your knee circumference and you divide whatever you get by 2. So for me, since my knee circumference is 30 plus the 6 inches, which is a standard, I will have 36 inches. So 36 divided by 2 gives me 18 inches. Next, I'll go ahead and take the knee measurement on the front pattern and on the back pattern, and I will add them together. So for the back pattern, I have 11 inches, and for the front pattern, I have 9 inches, like so. So I will add them together, and here I have 20.5 inches. So what I'll do next is I'm going to subtract the 18 inches from this 20 inches. And after subtracting, I have 2.5 inches. So what I'll do now is, I hope you understand this calculation. I really hope you do. So what I will do now is I'm going to subtract this 1 inch that I came in with on the center back from this 2.5 inches. So once I subtract 1 inch from this 2.5 inches, I will be left with 1.5 inches. So the 1.5 inches, I am going to share it on the front pattern and on the back pattern. So I'll go ahead. So 1.5 inches that is left divided by 2 is 0.75 inches. So meaning 0.75 inches is going to be here on the back pattern, and also is going to be on this other side of the front pattern. Then I'll connect like this to the hip line. So please just watch closely. I hope this is not confusing. Just, take your time and practice it, and you'll be a pro within 2 days. Within a day, 2 days is too much. So I'll just go ahead and connect like this. So this is just to, achieve some more form of contouring around the knee. So that's why this whole calculation for the knee, using the knee circumference and the measurements we got for the knee on the pattern. I hope you understand. So you just go ahead and connect these to the hip line like this. So I'll just go ahead and curve like this to eliminate any form of sharp point. So I'm just trying to see if I didn't go deep here. I'm just being careful because this is my first time of using this method. So I don't want any form of, error or mistake. So I'm just going to straighten this out like this. So now that this is done, the pattern is ready. Our front and back pattern, or rather my front and back pattern is ready. So I'll go ahead and cut out the first pattern out first. Please take a look at how I am cutting it out. Just, pay close attention. So I'll just go ahead and bring in my rule. I almost forgot. I'll bring in my rule and, connect like this back to this hip line. So I'll connect the straight line like this back to this hip line like this. And I'll continue with the cutting. So cut, 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 cut. So the front pattern is ready. I'll bring in the back pattern and start cutting as well. So I'll go ahead and bring in my curve rule, curve it like this, and continue the curving, or cutting rather. So I just go ahead and cut, and I'll cut out this part as well. And also don't forget the budging aspect of the zip, so get to remove the excess. So this is it, my front and back patterns are ready. The next step is to go ahead and use this to cut out the fabric and the lining. So please note that no side sewing allowance was added here, so just go ahead and add the sewing allowance on the fabric. So I'll be using 1.5 inches for my sewing allowance, so I'll go ahead and mark it out like this on the side. So please take note that my fabric is on fold like this, and you can see the way I placed my pattern paper. The center front obviously does not need any form of opening, so you can see the way I am marking 1.5 inches for sewing allowance on the side of the front pattern like this, and I'll go ahead and cut. So at this point, if you want to add half an inch to your neckline or your shoulder or your armhole, you can go ahead and do that. But for me, I don't really see the relevance in that, so I'm just only adding for the sides. Next, I'll bring in the back pattern, and my fabric is also on fold. For the back pattern, I'll add the sewing allowance to both sides like this. So I'm adding 1.5 inch, that is 1.5 inch on the center back like so. So I'm just going to add it all through like this. And on the side, I'm also going to add 1.5 inch as well, and this is for sewing allowance as well. You know the center back has a zipper, so you need to leave zipper allowance, so that is the 1.5 inch, and you need to also join it at the center back, right? So that is the 1.5 inch that I added at the center back for sewing allowance. Then on the side, I also added 1.5 inch, and I went ahead to cut. So you can decide if you want to add half an inch on the neckline, on the shoulder, on the armhole. It's your choice, but for me, I don't want to add half an inch at all. So this is it, my back pattern is ready. Now, because I don't want to start drafting this pattern all over again when necessary, and also because this pattern is, something I would love to make use of again because it's a basic gown pattern, all I have to do is to indicate the size on this pattern. So this pattern is for a size 12 because of the measurements used. So I'll go ahead and indicate it size 12 on both sides of the pattern, and I'll go ahead and also indicate the waist measurement, the bust measurement, the hip measurement, just in case someone with this kind of size, I want to make clothes for someone with this kind of size, I can just go ahead and make use of this pattern. You get, so there's no need of me drafting all over again. So all I will have to do is to fold this pattern and keep it safe. Whenever necessary, whenever I need to make use of it again, I'll bring it out. I hope you do understand. Whenever someone with this particular size wants to make an outfit, I want to make an outfit for someone with this particular size, I'll just go ahead and bring it back, bring out this pattern, and I will use it for the process. I can get to just transfer it directly to the fabric, or trace it out on a new pattern paper and cut out the design I want on that new pattern paper. I don't know if I'm making sense, so I'll just go ahead and fold it and keep it safe for future use and purposes. So I'll just go ahead and keep it aside, and then I'll bring in the front pattern for the fabric. And remember the design or fashion illustration that I did for the front, it has this asymmetric neckline. So I'm just going to go ahead and achieve that. So I want the neckline to be 8 inches deep, and I'm going to mark that out on the fabric like this. You can see the way I placed my tape. Then I'm just going to bring in my rule and draw out, draw out a slightly slanted line like this to meet with the 8 inches, starting from the neck width at the shoulder. I hope you do understand. So you can see the way I am doing it. Then on the other side, I'll just create a fully slanted line to meet up with this line. So that is how my asymmetric neckline is going to look like. Now I'll go ahead and cut this out because I've achieved the neckline that I want. So I'll just go ahead and cut it out like this. So if you enjoyed this video so far, and if this video was helpful to you, please do well to hit the subscribe button and also give this video a thumbs up. So now that this is done, I've cut it out, I'll go ahead and use this to cut out my lining. So I'll bring it back and show you guys. So for me, I'm making use of the half lining, but if you're making this for a client, please go full option, cut out a full lining. If you're making this for a client, or if you would love that for yourself as well, cut out a full lining. But for me, I am okay with this half lining. Yeah, this is for me, so I can decide what I want. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring in the patterns so that I can use it to trace out the dots line. Now if you notice, you can see that I didn't get to cut out the dots. That is because I'm just going to sew them in. There is no need for you cutting them out here. So I'm just going to sew them in. So you go ahead and trace out your dot on your fabric, and then you just go ahead and use your chalk or your invisible chalk to mark them out and outline them. So this is me doing the same thing. So it's up to you. You can just go ahead and measure it out, or you can just put your pattern paper on the fabric and then trace it out just the way I am doing. But I feel tracing it out, placing your pattern paper on the fabric and tracing it out is way more easier, especially if you're a beginner. Yes, if you're new to this whole sewing thing. But if not, you can go ahead and measure. So I'm just showing you how to trace it out from your pattern paper if you intend to. So just go ahead and connect like this. So this is how I'm going to close up the dart. I'm just going to take it inward like this and stitch on the dart legs or line that I have outlined out. So now I'm just going to trace out the side dart as well. Just going to trace it out like this. And I'll also bring in my rule to extend the lines like so. So this is how you're still going to sew the side dart like this. This is how you're going to stitch on it. So I'll just go ahead and do this for the back pattern as well. Now if you want to transfer this dart to the lining, all you have to do is to put your lining correctly on the fabric that you have outlined your dart on, and just go ahead and tap it. You can see you have it on your lining. You get, so you can do it on the other side of the lining as well. Arrange it properly and go ahead and tap the lining, hit it, and you can see you have it. So that's just it, guys. So I'm going to go ahead to my sewing machine now and stitch this up. So guys, this is the front pattern. You can see I've closed up my dart. So this is the right side of the fabric, as you can see. So I'm going to bring in my lining and place the right side of the lining on the fabric. So whatever I did on the fabric, I also did the same thing on the lining. I hope you do understand. So this is it, guys. So I'm going to just close up the sides, the neckline, and also aim the down. But if you're using a full lining, you just close up the down, close up the neckline, and also close up the sides, and then you turn it over through the armhole. Right, yes. So for this back, all I have to do is to close up the center back, the neckline, and also the side, and aim it down as well. Once I'm done with this, the next step is to temporarily stitch up the zipper allowance and iron it out. So you can see what I did. I went there to spread it open and iron it out. So next is I'm going to bring in my zip and sew in my zip to the back pattern, and also open the slit at the center for easy working. So this is it, guys. I have gone ahead to iron it, and I've gone ahead to put my zip, open the center slit, and I'll bring in the front piece, place it on the back piece like so, and I'm going to close up the sides like this. So I'll close up the side seam, then the shoulder I'll place it like this, then I'll turn it over just to close up this shoulder. If you've watched my video before, you should be able to, especially my video on how to make a 6-piece gown, you should be able to close up your shoulder professionally. So this is it, guys, and I so much love how it gives the back the perfect contour. The way it contours the back perfectly, it is so and for this method, I would definitely be adopting this method when it comes to drafting out a skirt. Yes, it's definitely going to contour your skirt greatly. So I'll be adopting this method whenever it comes to drafting out a skirt, any type of skirt. I'll be adopting this method. And also for the front, I love how Snatch it gives the waist. And please mind you, whenever you're making use of this method, always get an original zip. Buy a very, very good zip, because obviously you snatched your waist and you don't want a process whereby you sit down and your zip just opens up. So you have to buy a strong sound zip to be able to hold the pressure. So this is it, guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. So see you on my next video, and I love you guys so much.